Well, I've been a musician all my life, and I was playing in various rock bands and duos and things like that around the Twin Cities. And Joel happened to be dating my cousin at the time. Well, it's interesting because I'd known Joel sort of almost side by side, you know, as somebody who is involved in family functions as well as seeing some of his stand-up. And I just knew he was a really funny guy and super deadpan, and he wasn't shticky at all. His sense of humor was extremely smart and very low-key, and I appreciated that very much.
Join us, become one of us. Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Told me about the concept of the show. He knew that I was a musician. Wondered if I might want to help him pull together theme music. Kind of explained it to me about, you know, well, bad movies, and we're making comments on bad movies, and I sort of referenced, I said, well, kind of like the Elvira show a little bit, and he said, yeah, well, yeah, we'll do the thing where they say, you know, nice haircut, dude, but we're on screen the whole time, and I couldn't quite figure out how that would work, but that was the shift. You know, I had kind of a point of reference on what he was talking about, but it was a stretch of the imagination to kind of figure out what he was talking about in terms of the characters being on screen.
And I'm not really a robot, but a puppet built to look like a robot, who is in reality being controlled by a puppeteer under this very table. And you're not a scientist/inventor trapped in outer space, but just a comedian playing a part on a television show that you wrote.
The writing session that we did was done at my house in uptown Minneapolis. So I didn't get to see the mad scientist laboratory or see what the other components of the show taking shape, but he explained to me what was going on, and I kind of understood the premise of the show, and then he approached me about doing it almost Gilligan's Island theme style thing where the exposition of the entire story is kind of built into the theme song.
To distant future, next Sunday AD, there was a guy named Joel, not too different than you or me.
He brought a completed set of lyrics, and we started poking around at some rhythmic ideas and just chord structure and stuff like that. I can't remember, you know, how formed his direction was, but by the time the, you know, first day of the demoing was done, it was a fairly good representation of what we ended up with.
We'll send cheesy movies, the worst ever made.
I think we sort of decided it was kind of like Surf Devo or something like that. And we were very reverse engineered it to that level, but we were pretty satisfied with that as being a direction that we could live with. So. Very keyboard driven. I was using a sampler. I was using, you know, the kind of the state-of-the-art stuff at the time in the middle 80s, early 80s. Sampling Yamaha DX7, Oberheim OB8 for the bass line that we love. I was a synthesizer musician, so the techie aspect of it kind of came naturally to me as far as that, and it plays into the concept of the show a little bit as well. And then samples of servo motors and stuff like that, obviously very cinematic and sound design oriented.
Robot, roll call, camera, servo, gypsy, crew.
Yeah, it was really cool to see something on TV. You know, we made this song. It's on TV. It's really cool.
If you're wondering how he eats and breathes and other science facts, just to repeat yourself, it's just the show. I should really just relax.
I had no idea what the time frame of the show. Who would have known at that point that it would run as long as it did and be so ingrained in culture the way it took hold, especially the various iterations. And I forget what the impetus was that it was going to be a first person vocal singing third-person lyrics. I forget how that all worked out, but it was cool to see the progression between Joel singing the theme and then Mike when it was revised.
Just a regular Joe, he didn't like his experiment needed a good test case, so we cocked him on the noggin and he shot him into space.
You know, later as I started traveling and playing music as Chuck Love, that would be the credit that I could drop, that anybody in the world would know, no matter where it was on the planet, that there was a point of reference that if you wrote that song, what? So that's pretty cool. That's been the connective, and to this day, been the most covered song I've ever done. There's so many covers of it and so forth. It's crazy. I forget what order things came in, but I was playing around with some samples, these horn samples, and very orchestral sounding things, and 8 miles of reverb, and I did this sort of reverent version of the theme song. And I forget if Joel directed me to do something like that, or if I just said, hey, when he came back in to do a final vocal or something like that, I played him my version of Mystery Science Theater on the big horns, and he goes, "That's the end theme. That's awesome." I'm like, okay, I didn't realize I was actually setting out to do that. So that sort of was developed from there into what we hear as the end credit theme. It's been amazing to see how people have responded to that piece of music over time too. They want to hear it at their funeral or their wedding here's a version of it that's slowed down 800 times. I was aware of the Kickstarter campaign. I forget what my point of reference with contact with Joel was. I think I found the original 24-track tape, and I knew that would have some value behind the scenes if we were to take a situation and go through the tape and just kind of break it down. And so we were in touch about something like that. And I also had dreams of maybe with the end theme song, maybe getting an actual orchestral performance of that done at some point in time. Joel must have had it in the back of his mind that things were going to fire up again, because it was, he started to talk to me about the reboot and how, all this stuff might come to fruition in the context of the reboot of MST.
Be to yourself, it's just a show. I should really just relax. For Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, hopefully we can preserve the happy accident feature of what made it come together so well in the first place, and continue with that energy level as if there was never any, that it wasn't this highly thought out process, but it just kind of organically developed. Hopefully we'll be able to achieve that same feel. That's kind of the direction. So.